can. You can use this for any, you can use the supplier database for any listings that exist on Amazon. So essentially, again, just find that listing, whether it's private label or wholesale, copy the ASIN and put that into supplier database to find out the supplier for that listing. So yeah, you can definitely use it for wholesale, private label, retail arbitrage, whatever the case might be. All right, so now I'm going to jump into the chat box and answer your questions. So make sure to drop your questions in the chat box right now and I'll do my best to answer them. All right, so I've got this question here from Rob who says, when contacting suppliers, some are asking me to communicate with them via email rather than through Alibaba. Would you recommend this or stick to Alibaba so you have a track record of all communication? That's a really great question, Rob. What I would say is that that is very common. Every supplier I've ever dealt with has always asked, hey, here's my Skype ID or what's your email? And they've always taken the conversation off of Alibaba. So a lot of the times I've done that. I think in theory, it's a better idea to keep all communication if you can on Alibaba. But yeah, what I would say is that it is very common for them to want to take that off of there. I think it's still great if you've got, you know, at least with emails as well, or even Skype, you do still have all of that, you know, basically recorded. But if you can keep it within Alibaba, it's probably a good idea, particularly if you ever, you know, you want to kind of invoke or you know, when you're, if there's any problems and you want Alibaba to step in when it comes to trade assurance or anything like that, having a record of it all there is very good. So yeah, I would definitely try to aim for that if possible, but it wouldn't necessarily be a deal breaker if they're not willing to do that. I do find that the messaging system in Alibaba can be a little bit difficult to use. Another cool feature actually that's part of the Jungle Scout tools, it's called Supplier Tracker. And essentially it's kind of like a notepad specifically for sourcing. So you can add in any notes for your suppliers there, you can add in quotes, you can add in pictures of samples, you can add in all this information in there and it makes it really nice and easy to organize. That's a slightly different area, but I thought I'd mention it as it kind of falls into the same area. So I hope that helps, Rob. All right. So let's see. I've got this question from Anna who says, do suppliers tend to upcharge samples? Should I try haggling the prices? Good question, Anna, and thanks for submitting that one. Essentially, I would just expect sample costs to cost a little bit more. Often it can be anywhere from $50 to $150. And I know there can easily be the tendency to be like, oh, why does it cost so much and so forth. But at the end of the day, it is very common and it essentially is just kind of part of, it's essentially just a business cost. You're usually just going to get 2 or 3 of these, a handful of them to compare. And, you know, these suppliers, they're probably getting lots of requests for samples as well, but they're really looking for larger orders, long-term buyers. So from their perspective, they're not really wanting to be constantly giving out, you know, lots of little samples. So they probably do charge a little bit more, but I honestly wouldn't worry too much about that cost because it really is just a once-off cost at the start of this process. But yeah, typically it might be $50 to $150 depending on what the product is and the size and so forth. So that's fairly normal. Alrighty, I've got Rolando in there saying, be sure to crush the thumbs up button if you're enjoying today's episode. So yes, please, if you're enjoying this episode and getting some value for it, please hit the thumbs up below. And also if you want to make sure you don't miss out on more episodes like this every single week, then make sure to hit the subscribe button below too. Jose says, hello from Spain. Hi Spain, thanks for joining. Alrighty, let's look at some more questions. Let's see. So Demeter says, do the PPC strategies you discussed last time apply for Amazon Germany. Sorry I couldn't watch the last episode live. Just letting you know there is a replay available, so if you go to our YouTube channel, you can check that out. Do the PPC strategies I discussed last time apply for Germany? I'd say they would be. I'm not super familiar with the German market as I haven't actually sold on there personally or managed any accounts that do so. But generally speaking, PPC strategies should more or less work across different marketplaces. All right, so another question here. Do you know another supplier platform other than Alibaba? Sure. So another great one is Global Sources. That's quite a big one as well. And of course, the Supplier database can help you find suppliers, okay? So again, you can search for a product or you can search for a specific ASIN. It will give you a list of suppliers that create that product or supply that product for that particular listing. And from there, it's very easy to reach out, do a Google search, find that supplier, find their website and contact information, and contact them directly. So that's the other one I'd recommend. So just to go over that, Alibaba, Global Sources, and the Jungle Scout Supplier database. And in case you're not a Jungle Scout customer, that tool is included in our main Jungle Scout membership along with all of our other tools. All right, so make sure to be dropping your questions in the chat box, guys. All right, so here is a comment from Great One. I signed up to Jungle Scout, signed up today on Jungle Scout. I love you guys. Wish me the best of luck. What's the first step I should focus on? Thank you from Morocco. Thanks, Great One, for the lovely feedback. It's awesome to hear that you've signed up to Jungle Scout. What I'd actually recommend is inside of Jungle Scout, we've got a tool called Academy. So here we're building out the best in Amazon FBA education. Okay, so imagine essentially an A to Z course. We're still adding modules at the moment every single week, but I recommend starting there. We've got a lot of great tutorials that cover our actual tools so you can learn how to use them, but there's a lot of great education there just in terms of how to sell on Amazon. So if you have no idea where to start, I'd recommend going there. That'll get you started with our tools, and it'll also walk you step by step through how to run this business. All right, so let's see. Next question here. Error 404. How do I know that my product already arrived in Amazon's warehouse? So when you're sending products into Amazon's warehouse, you have to create a shipment within Seller Central, which is the platform, Amazon's platform that you sell on. When you do that, essentially, as the product gets sent in, if you're using something like FedEx or if you're using a freight forwarder, they will normally give you notifications as to when it's arrived at the destination, but also Amazon will send you an email saying that, this shipment has arrived at the warehouse, and then they also give you a notification once it's been fully received. So there's sort of two emails there, I believe. The first one is to say that it's in receiving, mean that it's landed, and then usually it's within 24 hours or give or take, depending on the season. But then, within that time frame, there'll be another email saying, okay, we've fully received your product. It's now on the shelves and ready to sell. So that's how you'll know that your product has arrived. All right, so next question from Mumberfire. If you have set up your listing and your supplier has sent you one wrong color, can you send in what you have? Will Amazon list your product with the missing color? So, Mumberfire, I might need a little bit more information just to clarify on this question. What I think you might be saying is possibly you've got a product with different variations, like you've got red and blue, for instance, red, blue, black, white, and you're trying to send in products for red, but it's actually, you accidentally sent in maybe white. Just let me know if that's what you're referring to. That can be a little tricky. If that is the case, essentially each individual variation will have its own barcode called an FN SKU, and that FN SKU identifies it as that specific variation. So Amazon isn't checking inside of the box to see exactly, what that product is. They're just scanning the barcode on the side, and if the barcode has been labeled as, red, but, the product on the inside is white, Amazon isn't going to know that. They're going to put it on the shelf as red, and it's going to get sent out when customers order that. That, of course, is a problem because if the customer gets that and it's not the right color, not what they asked for, it's going to cause returns and so forth. I actually had that happen to me once where 2 variations of a product got mislabeled and they essentially got sent in. One of them was a bundle, and so people that were ordering the bundle were missing one of the items, and that ended up being a headache. I ended up getting a bunch of returns, and fortunately I don't think I got any negative reviews as such, but it was quite a nightmare for that period of time. So again, assuming this is what you're referring to, what I did is I essentially removed all of my inventory from Amazon and found a nearby third-party warehouse that will essentially receive all of your goods, and they can inspect them. They can essentially repackage them for you, relabel them, and send them back in correctly. So it is a little bit of a hassle. It'll cost you a little bit to fix this problem. If this was a mistake on your supplier's end, you can talk to them, explain what's happened, and try to get some sort of reimbursement from them for your time and money lost, and they will often, meet you somewhere in the middle with that. So that's what I would do in that situation. But if you're referring to something a little bit different, please just clarify for me. Okay, here's a follow-up from Mumberfire. So, no, say I have 3 out of 4 colors. Will Amazon let me sell without the 4 colors? Okay, so are you saying that you've got 4 variations set up, 4 different colors, but you've only got 3 in stock? If that's the case, yeah, you can absolutely sell all of the variations that are in stock, and the ones that aren't will just remain inactive until you send that product in. So they all kind of act individually. It doesn't affect any of the other colors. So I hope that helps. Alrighty. So Demeter says, can I have my company listed inside the Jungle Scout Supplier database? I am a manufacturer of swimwear, sportswear, and underwear based in the EU, Bulgaria. Great question. So the way that the supplier database works is essentially we're collecting information from US import records. So every time a product is brought into or is imported into the US or a supplier sends it in, essentially there's a US import record created, and then from the Freedom of Information Act, we're able to access or get that information for free. And so essentially we're just grabbing that information based off of import records. So Demeter, if you have supplied products to any companies in the US that that are selling on Amazon, then yeah, your company will most likely appear if people search for that product in the supplier database. Okie doke. Hey, we got Adam Z here. You rule, Lenny. Thanks, man. Great to have you here. For those of you that don't know, this is a little shout out to Adam and Joel from the Amazon unboxing series. So give us a thumbs up below if you've seen that series. And if you haven't, make sure to go to our YouTube channel. There should be a playlist there for Amazon unboxing. It's a really cool show where Adam and Joel were basically unboxing products, talking about how those listings could be improved, and having a lot of fun with it. So check that one out. All right. So question from Anna. I'm a newbie. I don't know where to send my first batch of order from Alibaba. I don't have a warehouse and I'm not eligible for Flexport. Do I send it to my house and then ship to Amazon? Cool, good question. So you can actually do either of those options. You can actually send your product direct from the supplier into Amazon, or a lot of people also will send it to their house, say in the US, and then that gives them the chance to inspect the product and then send it on into Amazon. Personally, because I started selling from outside of the US in Australia, I just got my product shipped directly from the supplier to Amazon's warehouse. So you definitely can do that. And so let's see if I can give you some more information here. I don't know where to send my first batch from Alibaba. Awesome. So again, a couple of resources for this. We're going to be adding a module all about shipping inside of the Jungle Scout Academy. That one's not quite live yet, but meanwhile, I'd recommend checking out the $1 Million Case Study here on YouTube. If you check out that one, check out the playlist for that one. We've got a couple of episodes on shipping, which will help you out in terms of how to set up how to create a shipment within Seller Central and how to set all this up. So that might help you out, Anna. There's also another video here on our channel called How to Sell on Amazon, where I kind of break down the entire process in 40 minutes or so. So I'd check out that as well, because that also has a demonstration of how to create a shipment inside of Seller Central. So one of those resources will definitely help you out. Alrighty, so let's see. Demeter asks, wow, that's awesome. Great. Last question. Have you ever managed to order less than the supplier's MOQ? Yes, it really does just come down to communication and negotiating with suppliers. So for instance, if you look on Alibaba and you type in a product, you see all the results there, by default, they'll often have a minimum order quantity that might say 1,000 or 2,000 or 500 or whatever. I generally kind of take that, with a pinch of salt. Like I wouldn't worry too much about what that minimum order quantity is to begin with. It really just comes down to that initial outreach. So for instance, what I would often say is in my initial outreach, I would say something like, for my first order, would you accept like a minimum order quantity, or would you accept an order quantity of 250 units or 300 units for my first order? Following that, I would like to place orders of 500 or 1,000 units on a regular basis. Maybe say that you expect to sell 5,000 units per, month or year or whatever. But essentially the idea is to give them an idea of how much you expect to sell. Tell them how much you anticipate ordering on an ongoing basis. So if you're saying that we would aim to be selling 500 or ordering 500 or 1,000 units on an ongoing basis in the future, they're going to be more willing to accept a smaller minimum order quantity for the first time round. So I hope that makes sense. Because essentially they're trying to build a long-term relationship and they obviously want to be selling more product. So if you're at least letting them know that, hey, I am intending to order more from you in the future, it's just maybe the first order or the first couple of orders that I'd like a smaller one, they're going to be more susceptible to negotiating that first order quantity. So I hope that helps. Okay. So, question here from Zayad. I hope I pronounced that right. I found a great item on Alibaba. I contacted the seller and ready to ship. How can I list the item on Amazon? It asks me for SKU or ASIN, etc. Where do I go from here? Okay, that's a great question. Again, I'd recommend checking out the $1 Million Case Study here on YouTube. Or if you're a Jungle Scout member, then check out the Academy inside of our tool, because that will talk to you all about how to list your product on Amazon, okay? Essentially what you're going to need here is you're gonna need a barcode. Typically it's called a UPC or an EAN barcode. There are some exceptions to that, but generally speaking, if you're just starting a new account and it's your first listing, you're going to need what's called a UPC barcode, and you're going to need to purchase that from a place such as gs1.org, okay? And again, if you check out the $1 Million Case Study here or Academy, it will spell all of this out for you and show you exactly where to go in order to get that. But you will need that barcode or you'll need to purchase that barcode in order to create that listing. So definitely check out those resources. All right, let's see if there's any other questions. I'll take a couple more questions before we wrap this up. Okay, let's see. Okay, here's a fun question from Eunice. Hi again, what do you guys do better than Helium 10 and Viral Launch? So I can't speak specifically for those guys. There are a lot of features that, when you look at it as a whole, are very, very similar. The overall number of features that we offer. One thing that I do know that we do very, very well is our data accuracy when it comes to product research, okay? So we recently did a basically like a third-party case study looking at a whole number of products and testing accuracy across us versus a whole bunch of tools, and we came out significantly more accurate than anyone else. And we've actually seen this firsthand at a few events that we've been at, where people have come up to us and we've done some comparisons between our products and some of our competitors and seen that our numbers are a lot closer than theirs. There are also some features that we offer that only we offer, such as our supplier database that I talked about earlier. And we do have a lot more features that are coming out over the next 7 weeks. So stay tuned for those launch webinars every single week for the next 7 weeks, as we're adding a ton more into the Jungle Scout tools. So I hope that helps, Eunice. Alrighty, so I'll take one more question. If anyone's got any burning questions that they want to know, drop it in the chat box. Let me go back down let me scroll through here and see what I can find. All right. Okay, cool. Okay, here's a question that I haven't answered. So the question is, how often is the supplier database updated? Cool, that's a great question. So if you're not familiar with it, the supplier database is one of our product research tools, which helps you find products to sell if you've got no idea what you want to sell. And so in there, we've essentially recatalogued Amazon's products, but with filters that are user-friendly for sellers. So you can find out things such as how many sales they make per month, etc. And so the question is, how often is the supplier database updated? I'm assuming you're meaning specifically with, the sales per month. How often is that updated? It does vary for different products, but considering, I can't remember how many millions of products are in there. I think it's like 40 million, or maybe it's a lot more now. But there's a lot of products in there, and it takes like quite a lot of resources to update these on a regular basis. I think a lot of them update every week, or maybe it's every few days. Those numbers are kind of updated. You will also see there's a little refresh button next to the listing. So if you click that one, it will update that one immediately. So you can always make sure that it's the latest numbers. We tend to find that the numbers don't usually change that dramatically from week to week. The ones that do sell a lot higher, I believe we update those a little more frequently than that, but that's kind of, that might give you an idea. Alrighty, so I said that was the last question, but I just saw one. Actually, there's a couple more questions here that I'll just jump in and answer because I love answering you guys' questions. So this one's from Oscar. Hi, Lenny. I'm new to this and want to start. What do you think of starting in Q4? That's a good question. So if you're... The short answer is, I think if you're thinking about starting, the most important thing to do is start. Some people might have reasons for like, oh, you know, Q4 is not a great time to jump in, or like it's too late now to start to try to capture Q4 sales. But ultimately, you don't want to put this off. If this is something that you truly, you know, want to do, you want to start this business, you want to make changes in your life, then I would take action today. Get started, send in a product, start learning the process. If you're specifically starting in order to capture all of the Q4 traffic, then it is a little bit more difficult to start because Q4 gets very, very bogged down with everyone sending in shipments. It can take a lot longer to get stuff into Amazon, but I wouldn't let that stop you starting now, because even if you can get your listings up for the last week or couple of weeks, before the end of the year or before the holiday season ends, then it's a great time to have your product up and selling, because there's just so much traffic on Amazon during this season. So I'd absolutely do it if you're thinking about starting now. All right. So question from Anthony. How can you modify a listing that is not yours? Can the owner somehow give me access and I can do it from my own dashboard in Amazon? Okay, so this is actually something I'm not too familiar with, to be completely honest. So I'm assuming you're talking more about wholesale or retail arbitrage, where you're looking to just sell someone else's product. I'm not sure if this information is correct, but I believe you might be able to change some information if you're the buy box owner of a listing. I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't know the solid answer to that one. Generally, we talk a lot about private label, as that's kind of our preferred business model. The reason being is that you do have a lot more control over the product you create and the listing that you create, and then therefore the profit margins that you receive are a lot higher. So that's why we're fans of private label, for all of those reasons. So I'm not entirely sure, sorry. Oh, okay, so follow-up question from before, from Twess619. I meant more so the supplier shipments. How often do you pull the import shipment data? That's a good question. I'm not actually sure offhand. I'll definitely find out and see if I can comment back to you here on YouTube. So thanks for the question. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up for today. Again, I hope you've got a lot of value from this episode. Make sure to give us a big thumbs up below if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already. Better yet, there's a little bell icon below this video, so hit that one if you want to make sure you never miss another episode like this. Ask Jungle Scout will be coming to you every week, every Thursday at this same time. So if you do have any questions, make sure to stay tuned for that one. Thank you so much for joining, guys. All the best with your Amazon businesses, and I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.